I'm Karan Gokani and this is the Great British Chef's signature series. My first experience of Sri Lankan food it's similar yet so different. And I was blown away by the people there. I just love the people. I always joke, I've got more friends in Colombo than I have in any other city in the world, despite never having lived there. A good curry for me is like an orchestra. You have all the great players, but if they just go off and play their own tunes, you're just going to be getting noise. But if they come together, even average players can create a much better soundtrack. So every single ingredient needs to be respected, cooked at the right time, temperature, order, and that's how you get a curry that everything just sings together. I'm Karan Gokani, creative director and co-founder of Hoppers in London, and today I'm going to make one of our most popular dishes, a bone marrow curry. So we call it bone marrow Varuval, along with delicious roti. So the dough for the roti is a typical Malabar parota recipe, and it's milk and water in plain flour, so there's no strong flour here. So I've made that dough in the morning. You want to rest it for at least 3 to 4 hours because it needs to be super supple, and then rolled it out into 60-gram bowls, 80-gram bowls, depending on the size of the roti. So we just start off with flattening that little bowl out, a little touch of oil on top. You want to get the edges really nice and thin because the center will stretch. Now, trick is just allow it to rest, a little more oil on top while you do the rest. So now, this is the pit. You get one hand underneath, one hand on top. You just lift and slap, and then give it a little bit of a turn and lift and slap. A little bit of turn, lift and slap. It's just one of those really visually attractive things, and just look at how the dough is made right. Just look at how gorgeous that dough is. It will tear a little bit, but it doesn't make a difference. So now that's done. There's a little bit of oil so that you have that nice separation between the layers. Little pinch of flour just in the middle. Again, just spread that out. That's going to help that separation. And then instead of being precise about it, you just lift it from one end, just like that. And there you go. Just roll, 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 roll. Coil it. And that is ready. That's the first roti. I'm going to allow that to rest as well. This, I say, it's one of the most therapeutic things I do. I could just make hundreds of rotis just one afternoon because it's just, you switch off. And it's just, I love the feeling of dough, and I love cooking with, I love doing breads, whether it's pizza dough, whether it's sourdough, or just Indian breads. So once you're done with that, I've slapped out about 5 of these, coiled them up, a little more oil on top. You want the right amount of oil in there so that each layer is separate and it all cracks up and it sort of cooks at different textures. That's going to rest for at least a couple of hours. But like I said, you can make this in the afternoon, go away, and when your friends are there, just roll them out fresh to order and make them up. So our roti is done, resting in the afternoon. Now the real hero of this dish, our bone marrow. So that's beef shin bones. We call this a canoe cut. So basically it's a shin bone band-sawed through. That's the marrow in there. You can see that. All that is just going to melt away and going to add delicious flavor and texture and richness to the dish. Just a touch of salt, just fine salt or sea salt on top, and then I'm going to roast this off at about 180 to 200 degrees just till it gets a little bit of a color for that caramelization. Now on to the curry. So to start off, I'm going to make a curry paste. So curry paste is made with fresh grated coconut. So this is the brown coconut. You crack it in half, grate it with one of these cool grating tools, and then you have that. So get your pan on, medium heat, and some oil in there. Get it up to temperature. Don't go in cold. So that's over medium heat, and then your coconut goes in and just gets fried till golden brown. Even with all that fat, you'll see it is sticking, and that's nice because that means it's caramelizing. You can see the little brown bits as you cook it off. You're getting that little bit of caramelization. It's sticking to the pan, but it comes off fairly easily when you scrape it off. Now, that is exactly how I like my coconut. Perfectly nutty and toasted. I wish you could smell this right now. And remember, even when you stop cooking it, it's going to go on cooking because of the residual heat in the pan. When I'm happy with it, I'm just going to quickly go through and just empty this so it stops cooking. So now in that same pan, I've just wiped it down. It's still quite hot. I've got coriander seeds, fennel seeds, cumin seeds, green cardamom pods, and dried red chilies. Just gonna toast that for a couple of minutes. You wanna keep giving this a bit of a shake because you want them to toast evenly. And you'll know when it's done because you'll suddenly be hit by this amazing, amazing aroma. So there we go. It's taken me less than 2 minutes, and that smell is just gorgeous. So that goes in along with my coconut. So that's ready to be blended with. You're going to be using it immediately with a little bit of water, but if you're going to be storing this for a while, I'd say add some oil, just because the water is going to spoil it. So I'm just going to grind that up to a really nice paste. So that has just come out of the oven. You can see it's lovely. It's bubbling away. There's a lot of fat in here, which I'm just going to use in the sauce itself. All you want is a little bit of color on the top, and you don't need to cook the rest because it's going to simmer in the gravy as it is. Now that's ready to go. I've got my paste happening downstairs. I'm going to start off with the rest of my curry sauce. So this is a curry where you need to brown your onions really well. So I've taken brown onions, slice them up nice and fine, and then deep fry them. Spread them out on a tray on a little bit of tissue, and then just lift them off, put them into tubs. And that can sit in a Ziploc bag in the freezer, great to go for a long, long time. The minute they go into a little pan, and the minute you stick water into that, they're just gonna soften out. So it's a great little trick. So garlic, ginger, turmeric, chili, fresh curry leaves, always fresh. And then green chilies, I use finger or rocket chilies, which are now available widely in supermarkets. In there go my curry leaves, ginger, garlic. Just fry that off, being careful not to burn it. Just want that raw smell to disappear. Have a little pot of water. Here I've got beef stock. If you find it catching to the pan, just that little hit of stock will prevent it going completely brown. And then to that, just going to add about 2 onions worth, and then a splash of water to bring it back to life. So you see what I meant about the magic of fried onions. Now that is exactly the kind of texture you would get if you would slowly cook the onions and spend the best part of half an hour getting there. So I'm going to allow the oil to come up, because something I always believe in is that spices should always be introduced into fat. All that flavor from the spices carried in the essential oils, and oils are always soluble with oils. So you put them in water, you'll get a flavor, but it won't be the best flavor possible. I can see little bubbles of oil in here, and the minute I have that, sort of spread all around. This Kashmiri red chili I'm using, so it's a really bright and quite a mild chili, so it's more for the color. Little bit of turmeric again, and just look at that pan. I mean, that is gorgeous. All those colors, just gonna give that a little mix, so it really infuses all those lovely rich spice flavors into the oil. So the spices have cooked off. Now, tomato paste. And then finally, some green chilies in there. Now while the tomatoes reduce, that was my paste. So I've just blitzed that down with a touch of water, and it just smells amazing. This alone is just such a delicious, sweet, nutty flavor from that coconut, the coriander seeds, the chili, all those fragrant spices. It's just such a gorgeous paste. So there it's reduced, and now mixes up. And when that's reduced down to that kind of texture, I'm gonna add in thick coconut milk. Just look at that curry now. Everything's just come together. I'm gonna allow it to simmer, taste it, and the bones go in, simmer for about 3 or 4 minutes, and you serve up. That curry is cooked off beautifully, and into that, slip my bones in, ladle the sauce over. When you serve this, you can just slip that bone marrow right out. So while that's simmering, that's my rested roti dough. Should be nice and supple now, and should roll out fairly easily. With a rolling pin, let's go out. So beautifully rolled rotis, straight onto a hot pan. Not too much oil because there's a lot of oil here, just a thin layer of oil so it doesn't stick. You can use a non-stick frying pan at home, or just go onto a griddle. So to give that a little bit of a flip. Remember, this is fairly dry, so you're just dry cooking it. You want those little spots on there. So a little bit of a press down. Flip. Flip. You can see all those lovely layers. Remember, medium pan is the key. You go too high, it's going to burn. You go too low, it's going to cook through. So a nice medium pan. That color is exactly how I want it to be. So that's the bone marrow, perfectly done. Just going to bring it up. There's nothing you need to do. I mean, you could eat this straight out of the pan. A couple of bones in there. All that lovely sauce. And just look at that. When I was talking about smooth sauces, I was talking about how all those ingredients need to come together and sing. You can't sing a better song than what this is doing here. And then to garnish, some fresh curry leaves just on top, just sprinkled all over. I feel the garnish should always be something that has relevance to the dish and that can be eaten. So here the curry leaf is such a crucial flavor. Showing it off on top shows your guests what you've got in the curry itself. And then this roti there. It's all done. Give it 1 second to rest. And then the most important bit here is if that roti was cooked successfully, you want to bring it all together, crunch it up so it just opens all those layers up. And that for me is how the roti should be served. Basically what you're doing here is you're opening up all those layers, and if you get in here, you've got the soft bits inside. It's really soft and flaky inside like that. And then you've got the crispy bits that are just fried off in the oil. That's my bone marrow Varuval curry with a delicious flaky Malabar parota or roti.